So let's actually dig into this Ohio race because I do think that this is interesting. There's a new poll that is out that is very good for the Democrats and continues to show Tim Ryan really in contention to actually win this Senate race in Ohio. Let's go ahead and put this up on the screen. This is a USA Today Ohio Suffolk University poll. Found that 47% of Ohio general election voters said they would vote or lean towards Ryan if the Senate election were held today, while 46% said they could back JD Vance. Of all the polls that we have been seeing lately, these ones out of Ohio are the ones I am the most skeptical of.
Yeah, and you should be.
Ohio is the state, and I have mentioned this before, I actually used to live in the district in Ohio that has moved the furthest, the fastest to the right of any congressional district in the entire country. Of all the places in the nation where you've had a real, I mean, West Virginia is one of them, but in terms of the swing states, like Ohio has shifted very far to the right. You have a hardening partisan divide there, and we also have on the record from Hillary and from 2018 and from Biden, evidence that Ohio is one of these states where pollsters just cannot get a good read on what is going on here. So listen, it's true that if you wanted to make the opposite case, Tim Ryan's been running very aggressively. His messaging, I think, has largely been pretty smart for Ohio, even as I'm not a huge fan of his. JD Vance has been pretty lackluster in terms of campaigning. He hasn't really pivoted to a general election message. His fundraising has been completely pathetic, and he's been starved for cash in terms of putting up ads, hasn't spent enough time in the state, all of these things. He's not running a particularly great campaign. So that would be the argument. But you know, ultimately, I don't know that these candidate quality issues matter to the extent that they seem to be mattering in these polls. Couple points in one direction or the other in a tight race, yes, maybe. But in terms of, you know, a massive like 10-point swing in the direction of Tim Ryan over JD Vance, I just don't buy it.
I don't see it at all. And, you know, look, I mean, to be fair, in the last month or so, he's gotten a major cash infusion from the NRSC. He's gotten a little bit more cash on hand. Yeah, buying more ads. He's been spending more time, spending, I think, almost all of his time in the state. They just came out with a new Blitz that I was looking at, that they're blanketing kind of the state across, very much in line with national GOP messaging. So. Yeah.
I mean, look, I guess that's
it's like pivoting to a normal campaign, right?
The other thing, if you wanted to make the case for Tim Ryan, you would actually point to the fact that the NRSC is like coming in a big way to bail him out.
Because it shouldn't have to happen.
I mean, it does show, it shows that they don't feel it's in the bag.
Yes.
They feel that they have to spend some money. And it was like $30 million that I think the Senate Leadership Fund or whoever is dumping into this race. They're having to spend in a place where they really shouldn't have to spend any cash. This should be a gimme for Republicans at this point. So, you know, some people have been saying, well, okay, but the Republican internals look the same as the public polling. So maybe that's an indication that the polls are actually accurate. I just think that the Republican internals are probably also polling in a way that is missing some of what is going on ultimately, because that is what happened last time around as well.
I think you're right. I mean, all we will say is, let's put this up there. We had our producer James compile this little tear sheet here. Biden leads Trump by 17 points. Jamie Harrison tied with South Carolina. The tide has turned. Susan Collins trails Sarah by 13 points in a new Quinnipiac poll. I mean, all of those in front of you should just give you a tremendous amount of pause as to these Ohio polls, any battleground state that you see, and just remember the national environment. And I think it's what's shocking is, and I will stand by this, I think almost every time we've ever covered any of these, we will give a tremendous caveat, say, remember 2020. They're not doing that, even though we know that the polling was wrong twice in a row, anyway, 3 times in a row, 2016, 2018, and 2020.
Yeah.
It's irresponsible to mislead people. Most importantly, I think it's very irresponsible if you're one of these Act Blue types, which are pouring millions of dollars into some of these campaigns. Tim Ryan, for example, this guy's raising money cash over. You should be honest. I mean, at a national level, he obviously is going to do whatever he needs to do, but he should say, hey, listen, you know, you can't be bilking people out of money whenever you're telling them, oh, this guy's up by 12, 15 points. I mean, that's just outrageous from a national perspective. I wonder what you think, because my thinking is if they get burned, several times in a row, like, are they always just going to fall for the Amy McGraths of the world? Like, somebody's got to wise up sometime. Like, it's a lot of money that people are giving up.
Hope,
yeah, you might be
hope
right.
Springs eternal. Saagar.
Yeah, I guess you're right. I mean,
hope springs eternal. I don't know if, I don't know if people would be as quick to jump into like a Kentucky versus Mitch McConnell kind of a race. But, you know, it wasn't that long ago Ohio's a swing state. If you start to drink the Kool-Aid and think that, okay, this is starting to be a good year for Democrats, I think it's going to be hard to dissuade the grassroots donor base from giving money in large amounts to guys like Tim Ryan. On the other hand, I mean, Democrats really aren't suffering from a fundraising issue. It's not like the fact that they're giving to some of these races that are more of a reach. I would say Tim Ryan and Mandela Barnes. Although actually, I still think Ron Johnson is going to win. I think Mandela Barnes has more of a chance than a Tim Ryan does. That's just in my estimation because I think Wisconsin is a closer state ultimately.
Well, it's always been close. It's been much closer.
Exactly.
Ohio's like +8.
Yeah.
You know?
Ohio at this, I mean, it's, look, I think Democrats, if they actually did some different things from a national level, maybe they could put Ohio back in play, but that's not where we are today. So, anyway, they're still raising tons of money into the states that are the swing key states that are showing the polls are really close. I mean, Raphael Warnock has raised like $100 million. Mark Kelly has raised a lot of money.
They have real shots. I think that one's fine.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm saying is that these other races that may ultimately end up being a distraction don't seem to be hurting them on the fundraising front in the places that are going to be key. And then, you know, the other counter argument there would be the fact that Tim Ryan is raising so much money and at least making the polls close, even if the race doesn't end up being close, is forcing Republicans to have to spend there as well. So it's forcing them to have to play in states where they didn't really want to have to focus and put so much money, spend so much money. That's causing problems for Blake Masters, for example, in Arizona, because McConnell is not too eager to pony up for him, begging Peter Thiel to come back in and sort of rescue his butt because his fundraising has been really lackluster. So it actually hasn't worked out terribly for Democrats in terms of the fundraising fields. I can't blame any candidate for doing everything they can to make the case to the public that they have a shot and that they can win. If you've got polls coming out saying, hey, I'm up by 1, I'm up by 2, I'm tied, I'm down by 1, of course you're going to put those out and try to make the case and try to get people to believe in what you are attempting to pull off.
Yeah, I think that's fair. We'll see if it. You're probably right that it won't burn anybody. Like, well, at least we tried. You know, after watching Democrats always pour money into Texas, it's not like they ever learned.
Well, bottom line, just as you're looking at all of these polls, again, the ones where the biggest misses have consistently been since 2016 are where there is a large white working class vote. Ohio, Michigan, Wisconsin, Maine, any of the industrial Midwest. Those are the places where I would take, Pennsylvania, another one. Those are the places where I would be the most skeptical of the polling that comes out. Actually, Georgia, Nevada, Arizona, the polling has been relatively good. And again, lo and behold, the polls are very tight in those states, reflecting probably a more accurate picture of what's going on there. But there will be only one way to find out, and that is to wait to Election Day and see what happens.
True. That's the fun part of covering politics and elections, isn't it? Everything keeps us on our toes.
Cable news is ripping us apart, dividing the country, making it impossible to function as a society, and making it impossible to know just what is true and what is false. But the good news is they are failing and they know it.
That is why we're building something new, a new mainstream, a healthier one, something more trustworthy, something that we are going to need in one of the most pivotal times in American history. We are building up here for the midterms, for the upcoming presidential election, but we need your help. So if you can help us out by becoming a premium member today at breakingpoints.com, we're trying to change America for the better and the entire world.
So what are you waiting for, guys? Go to breakingpoints.com and sign up and help us build a new mainstream.